Hey everybody, it is Nicole here, and I am back with another episode recap, episode 7 of Red Band Society. Crazy, right? So hopefully I'm going to remember everything. I actually watched this episode super early, but I didn't get a chance to record until now. So please don't kill me if I forget something, but I'm trying really hard not to. To start off, as we know from last episode, Nurse Jackson was suspended for, tampering, my apologies, with Charlie's blood or other patients' blood and putting Charlie's name on it to, save him from being moved to an alternative care facility and basically giving up on him. So she is suspended, and it's kind of the aftermath of what's happening now. We see Dash wake up. He has an alarm that goes off for an oxygen treatment. As we remember, he has cystic fibrosis, I believe, with his lungs. He needs new lung is the main point. And he kind of hits the alarm and goes back to bed. Something very important to remember for later. And so it shows everyone else kind of doing their things in the morning. Nurse Jackson's at home. She's talking to her niece, and she's cooking, and she doesn't look super sad, but, she's not at the hospital where she belongs. This is a different side of her that we're seeing. And, her niece is telling her, oh, you can do what you're meant to do. You can do what you were meant to do. And it's kind of like, what else could she be meant to do? She's Nurse Jackson, this wonderful, amazing nurse. So then we go back, and everyone is getting called into, one of the little classrooms because Leo and Dash are trying to spearhead this campaign, to get Nurse Jackson back because Nurse Jackson keeps the place going, which is true. She's a very integral part of the story here at Red Band Society, and, she means a lot to the kids. Kara's kind of like, whatever, I got to sleep in, and I didn't have to pee in a cup with someone staring at me or whatever, so she's not as obsessed, and she doesn't really care. But, Dash is very, we need to get this done, we need to get her back, it's Nurse Jackson, we need her. And of course, all of a sudden, Hunter, our resident confusion bad boy, who knows, just shows up. And, he's like, you just care about this isn't what life is about, this isn't what life's like, and he's teasing them, and he's kind of like being a jerk to them, and it's like, there are bigger things in the world, which, I mean, in a larger scale, yes, it's true, there are other things in the world, but this is important to them, so, I mean, I wouldn't knock it, because it is important. And then Leo gets a text on his phone, and he goes, oh, my friends are here, and I guess we have some friends of his that are visiting, so he grabs Emma, and he's like, oh, you gotta meet them, and Emma's excited, but she's also terrified. I mean, you gotta see that, it's hard. She's excited to be with Leo, but again, I think this is a lot of her insecurity again, coming up. In another world, Leo and Emma probably wouldn't even talk to each other on a regular day. But, because of them being in the hospital, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. So I think that weighs on her heavily. So they leave, and Dash is fighting, and is trying to keep everyone going. He's like, what if we write letters? We can do this. And then Hunter's like, you want to see what's real? Come with me. And, of course, Kara's like, okay. And Jordy's like, yeah, why not? Sure. And he follows, and Dash is kind of like, seriously? And then, he goes with them because, he's going to go with them. So they go off, and nobody knows where they're going. Hunter leads them around the hospital, on a wild goose chase, and he's like, oh, wait here, and he leaves, and they're all like, what the heck? What? Why? Kara, of course, is like, I'm not having it. She's going to be right by his side, so she walks through, and he's taking a picture of a board, and it looks like the schedule for surgeries for the day, and she's like, what's going on? And somebody starts coming, so he hides her in a corner, and there's, this romantic tension. And, she thinks he's going to kiss her, and he doesn't. Then they end up in a room together or something. And she's kind of like, you're a jerk. I don't even want to do you. And then she kind of hesitates, and then she's like, unless you want to do me. And he's kind of like, he's Hunter. He's blowing it off. He doesn't really care. Back with Nurse Jackson, she's looking at this dress all of a sudden, and she's going through her closet. And as she looks at the dress, we see a flashback of her with a group of women, and they're singing, and they're humming something, and, you're like, oh, she was a singer. Never would have thought that. And it's kind of interesting, and, she flashes back, and, her niece keeps talking to her about, you can do this, it's fine, And there is some hinting that, Nurse Jackson supports her niece by working at the hospital too. Her niece is in college, and she's like, it's okay, I don't care, like, I want you to do what you were set out to do. And so it's very interesting about the secret past that we're starting to see for Nurse Jackson. And then we go back, and Hunter brings Jordy, Dash, and Kara finally to what we would say is a surgery taking place, and they're behind the doors, and they put on all the surgery like masks and stuff, and they're like looking through the window, and of course they're all freaked out, but it's true. This is what happens. And Hunter goes on this huge thing about nothing really matters because you're all alone in the end, and you're all on that table alone, and if you die, you're all alone. And he's very, very intense. It's really creepy. And everyone's just kind of like, oh, but there's also this curiosity because it is their life. Meanwhile, throughout this, while they've been waiting and they're looking at the surgery, we've noticed that Dash has been having some problems breathing, which is not good at all. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, they're watching a Dr. McAndrews surgery, so he looks up and he sees them through the door, and they're like, oh, crap. So they kind of run. It's kind of like a Breakfast Club, if you've ever seen that movie, the play on that. When they're hiding from the principal, they're sliding down hallways, they're sliding down other hallways, people keep taking turns trying to lead. So it's very funny, but at the same time, you're like, oh crap, they're screwed. And eventually they do get caught, which is not good at all. We flash back, and Kenji and Nurse Brittany come to visit Nurse Jackson, and they're like, you need to come back, like, we'll figure something out, just apologize. And she's like, no, I'm not going to, I did what was best, and she's like, no. And then she starts going, you know what, maybe I don't need this, and she starts hinting that maybe she'll go back to singing, though I don't believe any of this because it's Nurse Jackson. I think she's just saying it. And Kenji kind of challenges her and is like, I bet you can't sing anymore because you haven't done it in forever. And she's like, you want to see? So they all take a trip to a karaoke bar. Meanwhile, of course, they're back in the room, and we're seeing Leo and Emma. They went off and they met. Emma meets Leo's friends. He has this guy that's I think on the soccer team with Leo, and it looks like he's gay, it sounds like. And the girl is like, she's like Emma, she talks a lot, but she's very smart like Emma. And they find out, they go to a restaurant, and Emma's obviously super uncomfortable, and she's like, crap, what the hell am I gonna do? But they're talking, and they have the same schools in common, and she's like actually starting to like the girl. And then they start to order food, and Emma's like, oh, I'm not really hungry. And then the whole eating disorder comes out, and Emma doesn't talk about her eating disorder, really. So having to say it in front of two complete strangers is very uncomfortable for her. She keeps looking at Leo, and Leo's just kind of like, he's not really looking at her, and he's not helping her. And so that makes her feel even more uncomfortable. And so then the food comes, and she's kind of picking at it. And, she has to tell them honestly, like, I never talk to people about my eating disorder. The fact that I can tell you that I have one is a lot for me. It gets really awkward, and the two friends are like, oh, we're just going to go over here for a second. Yeah. So they kind of go off, and it's a lot to take. And obviously it's not going that great, and they finally decide to leave the restaurant. Meanwhile, the karaoke is going, and Nurse Jackson's all nervous. She's sipping a martini. She looks uncomfortable, and Kenji's like, she won't do it. And so then Nurse Jackson finally goes up there, and I think she sings Train to Georgia, something, I don't know the name of the song. It's very popular, and she starts singing it, and everyone is like, oh my god, like, she's awesome, and it's true. And you can see sadness in Kenji's eyes because I think he knew all along that she definitely could sing. But, they want her back. Brittany, of course, is really plastered by this point and says, like, whatever she thinks. She's like, why would she ever come back? Why would you do that? She can sing. And so it's a lot of that. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Emma and Leo are saying goodbye, and Emma just kind of walks off because it's just uncomfortable and it feels weird. And, you know, she gets mad at Leo and she talks to him. She's like, I don't understand, like, why you didn't help me. And Leo's like, because I don't know how to help you. And, you know, he's like, I don't know why you're doing this to yourself. I don't know how this eating disorder has come about for you. Like, he doesn't honestly know what to do. And he's like, I want to help you, but you don't let me, and I don't know what to do. And Emma just kind of sits there and goes, oh. And, you know, I think it's can she really be in this relationship with Leo? Because she has stuff in her mind about how everything works and why she has it, but she needs to realize that nobody else really knows why she has this disorder. She just does. So eventually Emma goes out, and the girl, I forget her name, maybe Laura, that had come to say hi with Leo or whatever, comes back and is like, oh, Emma, and she apologizes, but, you know, she says Leo's an amazing guy, and he's truly amazing, not just because he's, like, you know, all the regular stuff, but he's this amazing guy, but he can't wait forever. And I think that really hits home for Emma. She doesn't want to lose Leo. And it's terrifying for her to sit there and think, I could lose this kid because of my disorder. Meanwhile, Leo shows up in the room, and Dr. McAndrews is, why is everybody going to see the surgery? What the heck is going on, you know? And, you know, Dash gets into this whole emotional thing, and he's like, Nurse Jackson, we need her, and you did this to her, and you fired her, and all of a sudden he starts coughing up blood, everyone's freaking out, and he just crashes to the ground. And we find out he didn't do any of his oxygen treatments like he's supposed to do. They get him on a gurney, it's a big panic, and everyone's freaking out. So then Nurse Jackson gets a call while she's at the bar, and, you know, she's telling Kenji to take so-and-so, Brittany, home, and get my niece home, and she goes straight to the hospital, and we see a flashback. She's in the flashback, she's singing, and all of a sudden, you know, she's at the hospital, she got a call about her sister, and they told her, you know, she's like, I was going to visit in the morning, and I didn't get a chance, and her sister ended up passing away. And then we see, you know, the niece sitting alone in chairs with her teddy bear, and she goes to see her, and she's like, Mommy's not getting better. So it's very emotional in that flashback to see her, and I think the way she sees it is somehow that changed her and made her want to be a nurse, which is amazing. She gets there, and of course Dr. McAndrews is like, Dash is fine, it's okay, and, you know, and he reveals that he told someone to call her, and they talk about it, and it's rough, but he does lift suspension for her, which is really, really amazing because we need Nurse Jackson, let's be real. Meanwhile, Kara is watching Dash through the window, and Hunter's putting up a big stink, and he's like, oh, how's your friend? And again, he's got this creepy attitude where he doesn't seem to really care. And Kara's like, you know what? We're all friends, and when one of us falls, like, we're going to be there for the other, and you may not like it, but we're going to be there for you. And he kind of leaves, and it's kind of like, because Kara's never really stood up to him because she thinks he's amazing. And then, you know, Jordy and Leo take turns watching Dash in his room and hanging out with him while he's resting. And so Jordy takes the first shift, and then Leo's hanging out. Emma comes to visit, and, you know, she's like, I don't want to fight, I don't want to do this, and, you know, she sees this little package of cookies, and she brings them over, and she said that when she used to eat, you know, they were her favorite. So she sits down, and she's like, can I have one? And Leo's just in shock, and he's like, yeah, sure, of course. And she takes a bite, and she's like, oh, they taste good. And Leo's just so happy, he just goes in to kiss her, and she's like, my mouth's full, and he's like, I don't care. And it's just really adorable. Hopefully Emma's taken a step in the right direction. And then towards the end now, we have this letter that's being written, and all around the hospital there's this letter, and it's signed in huge letters, Red Band Society, and each of the kids narrates a part of the letter, and it's a letter to bring Miss Jackson back, which is wonderful. And you can see Hunter looking at them, and he's like, Red Band Society, and he's like, oh, because it's important to them. It's very important. And everyone narrates, and then Nurse Jackson goes to stop and visit Charlie. The ending is amazing. And she goes, honey, because Dash also, when he was passed out, you can see him looking because everyone passes out, and they see Charlie when they're passed out in this other kind of space. And he's like, Charlie, and their lights are all off. He's like, Charlie. So Nurse Jackson goes into Charlie's room, and Charlie's eyes are open. Sorry, I just got really excited because Charlie's eyes are open. He's awake. He's not speaking, but he's blinking a little bit. So Charlie is out of the coma, I think. So that was the ending of Red Band Society. I might have forgot some stuff in there. Hopefully it's not too important, but that's the basic general statement of the show for that episode. I hope you enjoyed watching. I can't wait for this week's episode. Yay, Charlie. Thank you guys for being so awesome. See you later. Bye.